So, welcome to the Mindset RX podcast again. My name is Tom Foxley, and I am the founder of Mindset RX, if you haven't heard this before. If you've heard this before, I'm sorry about the long intro. The Mindset RX podcast is for functional athletes who want to, PR more, push harder in WODs, generate self-belief, and just become a better athlete and a better person in general as well. So, I am Tom, like I said, and I am once again sat in... it sounds pretentious to say walk-in wardrobe. It's slightly bigger than a cupboard room in an Airbnb. So that's why I am recording this podcast, and for reasons of audio quality. And also, a little tip, I am currently a third of the way through what I would kind of call a coffee in loose terms, but is a good quality coffee bean, topped up with heavy cream. We like in Canada it's called whipping cream. In the UK it's like double cream or like heavy cream. But anyway, I'm going to take a sip of that now. And I've been following some strong fit stuff about hacking nervous systems and that kind of stuff, and parasympathetic versus sympathetic. But what you need to know is this: the combination of a lot of cream and some great coffee puts your mind on fire. In terms of how much cream you need, and this is a digression I didn't intend to take, in terms of how much cream you need, I used to be worried about tarnishing great coffee with cream, and what you need to do is put that worry aside and ruin the coffee with the cream until the point that it's cream that tastes of coffee. That's what you want, and that's delicious. And it's also so filling, and it's most of my breakfast right now because it's probably about 500 calories. But anyway, that is where I am right now. I'm in Vancouver in BC, and I'm recording this podcast for you because, well, I think that we need to describe what shitty moments are. Like, if you haven't seen the title of this podcast, if you just downloaded it, I'm going to put it out as something like what is the cause of our shitty days, or something like that, or what we can do about them. And what I'm really looking to do in this is teach you something, even if you've heard me speak a lot about this, even if you've been through our coaching programs before, even if you've been through the coach's certification, hopefully teach you something new or rephrase this in a way that helps you most, and kind of talk about why we have shitty days, what to do about them, and how to create change, and like kind of how to ultimately move forwards as both an athlete and as a human being. Anyway, time for another sip of coffee. So, the reason this came to mind is earlier this week I was talking, or I saw a post in the digital mindset group with an athlete. Fantastic athlete, really cool girl. She's made huge progress, but she was saying, look, you know what, I'm in a really shitty day today. Like, and she just reached out for help, which is just the best. The fact that like she was vulnerable enough to say, look, I'm having a shitty day, please can someone help me? And not only us coaches in the group, but other athletes all supported her, which is great to see. But she was kind of completely wiped out by the fact that she had been doing so well in her mindset work, and then she was like, oh fuck, I've had an awful day, for no particular reason. It just like cropped up, and we later discovered that this was due to a load of pressure she's been putting on herself, that she's been feeling from outside sources, from work, from, I'm sure there's some relationship stuff in there as well, but also in terms of training as well. Training is like this added stressor, and training hasn't been going as well, despite the fact that she's moving forwards and like her mindset's been doing really well. She just like hasn't been growing to quite the same point. And like, this is kind of normal in a mindset practice. You go through these kind of like layers of the onion, and the first few are really easy to peel off, and you feel yourself growing and growing and growing and growing. And as you get closer to the core of who you essentially are, the layers get harder to peel away, and more emotionally troubling. I would put it something along those lines. They're tougher, but they create more resistance as well, it seems to be, because you're leaving yourself vulnerable each time you go back through a layer. So anyway, that's where she was. And quite honestly, I'd been having a bit of a shitty day too. I think it's like 2 days before she posted, I'd had a bit of a shitty day. And sorry, it's coffee sip time. Or coffee tasting cream. Anyway, I'd been having a bit of a shitty day too a few days before that, because honestly, the pressure, well, not the pressure, the amount of chaos I entered from moving to a completely different continent and a different time zone and different culture kind of shattered me, like very quickly, very shortly. It just exploded, and I was like, fuck, like I feel awful, and I haven't felt this way in days. And it showed up in anxiety, and I started getting palpitations again, which is what I spoke about in the last podcast. And it's like, man, like it really kind of shocked me just how I went back to that mode. And because I've been practicing mindset work for so long and I've developed the strategies, I was able to quickly pull myself out of that. But it was like a bang, and there's a hit, and then I was like, okay, I'm regaining equilibrium. But earlier on, like in my mindset journey, this would have knocked me out for days, if not weeks, certainly the whole day. But like it would have bled into the next couple of days and maybe a week later. So like this used to happen to me the whole time. And this, like I spoke about with the palpitations and it limiting me, like in the last podcast, this is the reason that I fell in love with doing mindset work. This is why I think it's such an integral part of everyone's day, because it not only leads you to being more successful through a mindset practice, but it leads you to become a better athlete and become happier too. So both these examples, they were what we essentially call bound nature, I think. And that term bound nature is a really cool phrase developed by my mentors, Brian Grasso and Carrie Campbell. Fantastic guys, and they've mentored me in both business but most importantly in mindset as well. And Brian is actually a board member of Mindset RX currently as well, so he's kind of continuing to advise us now. But anyway, we call that bound nature, and bound nature is like bound up, trussed up, like stuck, like you can't move forwards. And by the way, this is quite an advanced topic that we're going to go through. So, like, if you want more information on it, we're actually releasing a book. Coach Rachel has just written a book on this, which we're going to be releasing soon. But anyway, this is quite an advanced topic, but like, go with it. So bound nature and free nature, they're very simple concepts though. Free nature is when everything is flowing right, when you're just in a good place, when you've had enough coffee tasting cream, and when you are in a good place. And essentially it's when we're perceiving the world as it actually is and not getting overwhelmed by what's happening in our heads. And it comes down to 4 different categories. And sorry, it's time for another sip of delicious coffee. It comes down to 4 categories. The emotions we have, the thoughts we have, the behaviors we perform, and the physical sensations we experience. So let's break this down. The emotions we experience. So these can be anything that is distracting from a calm, focused, appropriately engaged place. So free nature would be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling confident, I'm feeling like I've got direction. The emotional state is correct and right. The other emotions that would be in bound nature are anger, fear, jealousy, resentment, but also like extreme ecstasy and the kind of like overly positive aspects. Because remember, perspective isn't seeing the world in a positive light or a negative light, it's seeing the world as it actually is. That's what perspective is, and that's what we're seeking. So an emotion is anything that takes you away from that. So fear, resentment, anger, jealousy, like I said, a lack of confidence, a lack of self-belief, self-loathing, like all these kind of emotional states that come up. So that's one part of it. The thoughts we have. So the thoughts could be, I'm not good enough, she's better than me, I'm never going to get this, I suck at this, why is it always me, that kind of thing. So those thoughts, anything that does not help you or anything that does not serve the progression of your goal is another way to say that. The behaviors we perform, procrastination, missing lifts we should hit, not pushing as hard as we want to, self-sabotaging through nutrition or through a lack of goals or not doing your mindset work or whatever it is. So the behaviors we perform, and also the physical sensations, and this is what I was talking about yesterday, the last podcast I recorded. Physical sensations are palpitations for me, shots of adrenaline through my hands, but for other people, butterflies in stomachs, neck pain and back pain, like through tension in the shoulders, like all kinds of things, like kind of just nerves and overexcitement and too much tension in your body, that kind of things. And it's time for another sip of coffee. That was not a sip of coffee, that was like the biggest mouthful of coffee ever. Oh god, that was god, I almost said something disgusting then, but luckily I didn't. Anyway, so we have these emotions, thoughts, behaviors and physical sensations, and these come from two different mechanisms. And this is a way of categorizing mindsets and our success in the world that I haven't really touched on before, and I think it's really, really important. So I'm not gonna talk through the whole model because this whole model is complex and I don't want to over explain it and over confuse you right now, and like we can come back to this another day. And also the podcast would be about 10 hours long if we did go into it. But there's two reasons that this bound nature appears, which is feedback loops or the stories we have. And let's talk about feedback loops. Feedback loops are existing in your conscious experience. So what I mean by that is the world in your head. And what happens is emotions and thoughts and physical sensations become so deafening that we can't see the world clearly. And if you know what feedback is, it's when you put basically a transmitter and a receiver too close together, and a noise that is a noise that is emitted by the transmitter, so by the amplifier or by the speaker, is picked up again by the method of input. So like the speaker. The microphone. So if there's a noise that's coming out of the speaker and going into the microphone, it gets transmitted back into the speaker, which gets amplified and put back into the microphone, and you get this feedback loop. And that's when you get those squeals and those kind of like horrible noises. And that's kind of what happens with our thoughts and emotions too. There's a brilliant video of some kids getting deafened by some feedback, which I love, which is probably pretty cruel of me, but it's like 50 kids that I think it's like a spelling bee, and they're getting deafened by feedback, which is great to watch if you're a horrible, horrible person like I am. or you're just interesting in feedback. But anyway, this is what happens with emotions and thoughts and physical sensations. They create this kind of feedback, and until we learn to distance the transmitter and receiver, we can't think clearly and we can't get perspective. And it's this lack of perspective that causes us to be wrapped up in this emotional state that we can't break free of. The other side of this is the stories we have, and the stories we have are a way of simplifying the world. It's a way of kind of like simplifying the amount of information that we process. So we have stories because they're a way to live. They're something that we want to live through, and they're basically a way of easily defining our narratives. So for an example of that, or easily capturing our values is another way of putting this. And if we're talking about this, a great example is the story that a lot of people tell themselves, which is I'm destined to be average, or I'm doomed to fail. And this is a story, and what happens is we selectively choose evidence to fit that story that back it up, and we can't break free because of that. So the story we become enraptured in, we become compelled by it, and then we look for evidence that supports that story. So the story is that the story is maybe that you are destined for failure. So you look for examples where that's true and disregard anything that is not the case, and we selectively choose as evidence. And this is something we teach in a lot more detail, but we've got two methods kind of fixing, or we've got one method of fixing this, which is providing you with a more compelling story, okay, or a more compelling narrative. And we do that by aiming up. We do that by setting goals properly, and we do that also. We create change as well by separating that feedback loop, distancing ourselves. And what we're essentially trying to do is answer the question, how do we create change? That's what we're trying to do in Mindset RX. That's what we're trying to do as an athlete. We're trying to change ourselves and the world we experience to the better, right? So what we don't need to do is analyze why these stories are here and analyze why we're getting the feedback loop. It's kind of helpful, but it's a story that we used to live by and we don't have to live by now. What we actually have to do is two things. We have to distance ourselves from these feedback loops. You have to create separation so you can observe the thoughts without getting sidetracked by them or enveloped by them. We can observe the emotions without feeling them constantly. So that's it. We can observe an emotion without it distorting our worldview, and we can watch our behaviors without casting blame, and that will help us create change in the long run. And we can feel our physical sensations without creating extra feedback and forcing ourselves through it. And then the other thing we do as well is we provide a more compelling narrative. We provide a more compelling worldview to take the world by. And this is huge. When you experience something, you snatch a PR and you didn't expect to. It's like, holy shit! This is a better way of. I didn't realize I was capable of this, and now my expectations of who I am have completely changed. And that's because you've found a more compelling narrative to follow. And if we can put you in a better place in this narrative, then we can create change. If you realize you're actually on a different story, we can create change, because then you clear up your worldview. So that's essentially it. There's two things. We distance ourselves from the feedback loop, and we provide a more compelling narrative. And this, I told you we were going to talk about this in the last podcast, but this is what we do in the Digital Mindset Gym. And this isn't really well, I suppose it is a pitch for this as well. It's a suggestion that whether you've been through our programs previously or this will be completely new to you, I suggest you join the Digital Mindset Gym, because we help you do this. And if you've listened this far in the podcast, it's obviously of interest to you. You want a better life. You want to change, but maybe the feedback in your head is too overwhelming. Maybe you feel like you get trapped by the emotions. Maybe you feel like you can't make progress. Maybe you feel like the thoughts overwhelming you and you can't break free of negativity, or you want to generate more self-belief because the narrative in your head is just like, I can't do this. Maybe that's it. And this is what we do in the Digital Mindset Gym. We distance ourselves from the feedback loop, and we provide you with a more compelling narrative through the exercises that we have and the coaching that we give you and all these kind of things. So that's the Digital Mindset Gym, a kind of a broad description. To give you a bit more information, there's two parts to it. There's a foundations part, or an on-ramp. We call it the Digital Mindset Gym on-ramp, which is where we teach you all the foundational movements. If you think about or the foundational exercises, if you think about a typical CrossFit gym, it has a foundations class or a basics or a fundamentals, or it has something to kind of get you up to speed so you understand the movements, so you're efficient in them, so you're not going to basically do them wrong, so you're not wasting your time or hurting yourself. That's what we do in the on-ramp portion. And then in the Digital Mindset Gym itself, we continue this progress. We help you. We allow you to see further through those layers, and we coach you with individual classes. And those individual classes, man, they're super powerful, and the athletes who have been attending them regularly are crushing life. So yeah, the Digital Mindset Gym is for you. I'll go through the payment options now. I don't want to hide anything from you, and I want to kind of be as honest and open in this as possible. We have 3 payment options, and they're a little bit complex as they get further down. And the reason they're complex is because I want to provide something that's a bit more affordable for athletes. All of these, they give you a full year of access to the Digital Mindset Gym. That being said, if the payments ever get too much for you, or you're like, Tom, I'm not getting what I thought I'd get from this, we can just stop it there. There's no contract. It's just done on trust because, well, I think it's a better way to run a business, and there's not enough trust in the world. But anyway, and also we give you a refund if you really want it as well. But anyway, there's 3 options. The first one is to put down a lump sum of £750. Okay, that will cover you for the whole year. The second option is to put down £400 at the beginning. So you put down like a deposit, and then for the rest of the year, it's £35 per month. So you can see there, you kind of like split it in half. And then the other one is to, in month 1, so the day you sign up, put down £200. In month 2, so 30 days later, put down £200. And then for the rest of the year, it's £40 per month. So that's in Great British pounds. To give you an idea, a Great British pound is worth about, I think it's like $120 right now. So it's basically $900 total, however you want to pay that. And I understand this is a big investment, but looking at the athletes in the Digital Mindset Gym right now, it's worth every penny. Like and I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it. It's the most affordable way we can do this for athletes and our coaches to get paid, and all the kind of expenses that go on running for a business. So I'm really excited to bring you this. It's a fantastic way of participating as an athlete. It's a fantastic way of growing as a human being. And if you want more information, if you want to kind of like, because if I was listening to this podcast, I'd be like, oh, that's a great idea. I think I should do that, but I'm a bit unsure of really where I'm going with this. I'm a bit unsure of like buying something on the internet for some random English bloke. I would, like, despite having heard all of the things, I'd be like, oh, well, it's a bit risky. So what I'm going to say is get in contact with us and we can jump on a call to discuss this. I can put you in touch with our ambassador, Laura, who came through our program, who came through our first program, the Inner Athlete Performance Camp, and believed in it so much that she wanted to basically help people sign up. She was like, Tom, I have to help people sign up to this. So like, I'll put you in touch with them. And the way you can do that is either by joining the Facebook group, Mindset for Functional Athletes. You can shoot me a message on Instagram, which is at Tom Foxley, Foxley, and you can shoot me an email as well, which is tom@mindsetrx.com, so mindsetrxd.com. And what they'll do, we'll shoot you some info, we'll jump on a call if you want. If you just want some written info, we can do that. Or if you're ready to sign up, just like shoot me an email or shoot me a message and I'll go, yep, we'll sign you up right there and then. So we're actually going to be closing applications in maybe 2 weeks from now. So these will become periodically available. So if you want more info, shoot me a message and we shall go from there. And until next time, folks, I'll speak to you. Oh, by the way, this is something. All those links to those ways to contact us will be in the show notes. I'll make sure they're in there when I upload it. So there'll be a link to my Instagram profile. There'll be a link to our Facebook group, and there'll be a link to my email in there as well, or our website. So if you've got any questions or you want to sign up to Digital Mindset Gym to get a handle on your bound nature, then let's absolutely do that. And I'll speak to you all very soon.